Hello cabbies and cabettes, my name is Sean Paul Day and this is London Taxi Radio. Cabbies who tune into LTR on a regular basis or frequent Twitter will no doubt know Rosh. Rosh is a cabbie who runs a very engaging Twitter account, and during lockdown he went working on the trucks across Europe and shared his experiences. In the summer, after returning to work as a cabbie, he woke one morning to realise he had suffered a stroke. At the time he thought it was the end of the road, but not so. Not only is Rosh surviving, he is very much thriving and telling his story in the hope that other cab drivers will not end up going through what he is currently having to go through. And I met up with Rosh to talk with him about his life before, during and after that fateful day he had a stroke. Hello Rosh.
Hi, Sean.
It's fantastic to see you. Looking half the man that you were when I last saw you, but we'll get on to that.
Yeah.
The last time we met was for an episode of Cab Class.
Yes.
With Gary and Mark, the boys.
Yeah.
And it's fair to say he was in high spirits. But listening back to that podcast, we talked briefly about the way you initiated the idea behind Cabbies Do Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
And the idea being that you was looking for a purpose in order to lose weight, get fit, and raise money for a good cause.
Yeah.
Sadly, that didn't materialise for you, but nevertheless, it highlighted your need to address concerns about your lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe that's where we'll start. Not directly before you had the stroke, but in the weeks, months, even years before you had the stroke. How did you live your life?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me first of all, Sean. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to tell this story. Before I had the stroke, pre-stroke, I've always struggled with my weight. I don't actually know what happened to me. I'm one of 6 children, and all of my brothers and sister, they're all very fit. Even my dad, he's in his 70s and he still plays tennis. I often say to my mother, "What happened? What did you do to me when I was born? Did you drop me on my head or something?" And she says, "Yes, you were the only one that dropped on your head." But I've always struggled with my weight through the years, and pre-stroke it came to a head. Hence why I'm in this pickle now. My life was could only be described as a bit of a disaster pre-stroke. I was a walking heart attack, a walking stroke. My life revolved around fast food, working 24 hours a day, stress, and sleeping, and start again tomorrow. I'd wake up in the morning. First thing I'd do is look at my watch. Is McDonald's? Are they still serving breakfast at McDonald's? Oh, it's 11:15. Quickly out of the bed, into the cab, down to the drive-through, get myself a double sausage and egg McMuffin meal, 2 extra hash browns, and a Coca-Cola. Shovel it down my throat, and get back home, have a shower. Excuse me. Go to work. Work as many hours as I can. And go home via McDonald's or KFC or kebab place or whatever fast food is available for me at the time at the place, and get home, get into bed, start again tomorrow. A recipe for disaster. I just want to say, I've got a cup in my hand, and we'll get onto this, what I have to deal with at the moment in terms of having a stroke. But one of them is not being able to swallow. So the reason why I have a cup is because I have to get rid of my saliva because I can't swallow it like normal people.
Well, I can also imagine that a lot of cabbies can relate to what you have just said.
Yeah.
But let's bring it a bit more forward. I've spoken to 2 people who've had strokes besides yourself, Rosh, and in the week leading up to having a stroke, they described their experience of having a series of mini strokes.
Yeah.
What were your indicators or signs, in hindsight, looking back, that something wasn't right?
I had a clear indicator on Saturday. I had the stroke on Monday. Saturday, prior to the stroke, I was working. I picked up a customer from Euston Station, and he wanted to go to Islington. So we were on the Euston Road, heading towards Islington, and all of a sudden I heard a shouting in the back of the cab, "Mate, what are you doing? You're all over the place." And I was sort of straddling two lanes. And he said, "Also, mate, you went through a red light back there. I want to get home in one piece, if that's all right." And I said, "Did I go through a red light? I really apologise." And all of a sudden I felt very dizzy, very, very dizzy. I haven't felt dizzy like that before. So I pulled over. No, actually pulled into King's Cross. I pulled over and I said, "Mate, I'm starting to feel a little bit unwell. Do you mind going to that rank over there? I'll come with you if you want." He said, "Yeah, that's fine." I think he was more relieved that to get out of my cab and get home alive, to be honest with you. But anyway, I had a stretch. I pulled over. I got out of the cab. He got another taxi. I had a stretch and a bit of few deep breaths and try to get some air into my lungs. Not that that's very possible in central London, but anyway. And I started to feel okay then. Not okay, but instead of doing the normal thing, what normal people do, and go home and just relax for the rest of the night, my first thought was, actually, I need 20 quid. I've got to buy a packet of cigarettes and I've got to go to McDonald's on the way home. So instead of going home, I chased another 20 quid. That was my life in a nutshell. Chasing the pound note for a packet of fags and a Big Mac.
Yeah.
Putting it simply.
Yeah.
So anyway, I eventually got my 20 quid. Went home. I didn't get a McDonald's, but I did get a KFC and a packet of cigarettes. And that was the Saturday. So that had never happened to me before, this dizzy spell, and having to pull over the taxi because that was a clear indicator. I told the doctor this eventually when I got to hospital, and he said, "Yeah, that was an indication that you were knocking on the door, mate."
Yeah. So on the day itself, what time did it happen?
Yeah.
What was your feeling or experience before it happened, and what was your experience of it happening?
The day, Monday morning, it was roughly 8 o'clock in the morning. I woke up with this really terrible pain in the back of my head. It was awful. I'd never experienced pain like that before in my life, Sean. I thought, what the heck is that? It's not like a normal headache. But anyway, I went to the bathroom, and then I proceeded to vomit everywhere and then collapse on the floor. The whole bathroom was just spinning around, couldn't stand up, couldn't make any sort of distinctive noises or anything, but I managed to sort of scream for help. Luckily for me, my landlord was in the house, and he heard some sort of commotion going on upstairs. So he came upstairs. He saw me on the floor, and he immediately called an ambulance. Immediately he said, "No, we need an ambulance here." Luckily for me, the ambulance came very quickly, and I was upstairs on the first floor. They said to me, "We can't get you down the stairs on a stretcher. Can you get down the stairs?" And I couldn't move. The reason why they couldn't get me down the stairs because I was 18 stone, nearly 19 stone. So they've dragged me to the top of the stairs. One of them has sort of held me at the back. One of them was pulling my legs. My landlord was just, it was a comedy of, it was just real funny looking at the whole thing. They eventually got me into the ambulance, and I couldn't move, I couldn't speak, my face was down here. And all I heard, I could hear them talking to me, but I was listening, but I couldn't really comprehend what they were saying. So they said, so all I could remember really was something about a stroke unit, and I thought, I was trying to say something. Stroke unit? What? I was thinking, what the heck are you talking about? Stroke unit? So, because they were originally going to send me to Royal Free Hospital.
Yeah.
But then they changed it to the Northwick Park Hospital in Harrow because there's a specialist stroke unit there. So they said, we've got to go to Northwick Park because there's a stroke unit. I thought, crikey, this is it. I thought, I'm knocking on the door here. Luckily for me, one of the ambulance crew said, we'll bring your phone. So they grabbed my phone and they said to me, do you want us to ring anyone? And I sort of got opened up my phone, got to my dad, and I said, so anyway, they spoke to my dad. And the next thing I knew, I was being plugged into all sorts of machines and poked about, and needles and all sorts of things going on in the A&E department. I was still conscious, but I thought that was it. As I said, I thought that was it. I'm going to die.
Well, they do say early detection, early intervention.
Yep.
How quick did they get you into hospital? And these are very trying times, aren't they, in hospital, especially for patients that are not in hospital for COVID-related issues.
Absolutely.
What was your experience of being in hospital
Yeah.
on the day you arrived, and the care
Yeah.
that followed? What was that like?
Just what you said, how quick did they get me there? Very quick. I think I was in hospital within 15 minutes. The landlord said it might have been a bit more than that, but it felt like about 15 minutes from collapsing to being in a hospital bed in the A&E department. And you're absolutely right. Speed is so important if you have a stroke. It's critical. In fact, later on while I was in hospital, the doctor said to me, if your stroke had affected my brain 1 millimeter out, I'd be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life.
Right. Okay.
That's how you can compare it. For me, I got there very quickly, and the big man upstairs was looking at me that day, and he looked after me.
So the severity of the stroke depends on where the stroke happens in the brain.
Basically, stroke is blood. Our brain needs blood to operate. And a stroke, putting in simple terms, the blood supply to the brain is cut off. So in effect, you get a blood clot.
Yeah.
So your brain is not breathing and not operating, and hence the damage that people get. For me, I got off relatively lightly. I'll come to that, but I got to the hospital very, very quickly, and they started working on me very, very quickly. The care in the Northwick Park was unbelievable. You mentioned COVID. Obviously, the NHS. We all know what's happened over the last year or whatever. They've been under so much pressure.
Yeah.
The stroke unit, with their limited resources at the time, operated seamlessly. They looked after me. I was put in a ward. I was, it all worked to perfection. Really, the care I got, I couldn't fault any of it. But before I got to an actual ward, I felt really dehydrated, really excruciatingly dehydrated. I thought, crikey, I really need a drink here. So I was laying on the bed in the A&E, and I was sort of signalling. I couldn't talk. I couldn't move my hands. I couldn't make any movements at all. But I signalled to one of the nurses, sort of this kind of thing with my hand, signalling a drink. And she said, she brought a glass of water to me. So I tried to drink it, but instead of it going down, I spat it out all over the bed and all over my clothes and that. So she went and got another glass, and she said, look, just take it easy, slow down, don't panic here, just take a little sip. So I tried to take a little sip. It wouldn't go down again. I'm thinking, what is going on here? That these people are telling me I'm having a stroke. I'm thinking, when I've collapsed in the ambulance, I'm going to be out tonight. I'll go back to work tonight. That's what I thought. They're telling me I've had a stroke, and now it's becoming apparent that I can't even have a drink.
Yeah.
This is it. This is definitely it. It's all over. I'm thinking I better try and get this message out to my mum and my dad. Come down here. You know, we're going to have to start making some arrangements. She calmed me down. It was an Irish lady called Mary, lovely nurse. She calmed me down. She said, "Look, just we'll look after you, right?" So a drip went in, fluid went in, and eventually this feeling of dehydration went away. Got to the ward, the stroke ward, and I was in a ward with other people, other stroke survivors, and the days went on, and I wasn't eating. They weren't feeding me, and I still hadn't really registered that I couldn't swallow. And I kept seeing all the meals coming in for everyone, and they were missing me. And my board said nil by mouth, which basically means nothing in the mouth, no food, no drink, nothing. So after a couple of days, I said to my sister, because my sister and my family came to visit me, I said, well, you know, what happens here? I can't swallow, I can't drink. What's going to happen to me now? Because it was completely alien. It completely new, all this stuff to me. And she said, my sister's a nutritionist, and she said, look, they're going to have to feed you via a tube in the nose down the throat. You've seen these people that have tubes in the nose. And it was sort of starting to dawn on me then how I was going to get my nutrition, how I was going to get some food. And then they eventually, after the days went on, I kept getting the drip fed with fluid, not with nutrition. And eventually they started trying to put this tube up the nose and down to the throat, and I couldn't tolerate it at all, Sean. 8 times they tried to get it. Once they got it in, and once you have this tube through the nose, down the throat, it's secured just basically here, and then they can attach some feed to this tube.
That must have been extremely worrying, the fact that you couldn't tolerate it, or you was rejecting it.
Yeah, very much so.
Because what would they do otherwise?
Well, other than that, your options are very limited.
Yeah.
You either die, or you get inserted into the stomach, what they call a peg.
Yeah. Well, talk us through that, because for people that don't know, what is a peg?
Okay.
And what is its purpose?
Yeah. Okay. A peg is for people that, like me, can't swallow, or they have issues getting nutrition into them. There's a whole range of people that need a peg. They could be in a coma, for example, for months on end. You hear of these people that have been involved in accidents.
Yeah.
They possibly might need a peg because they're not awake, they're in a coma. People like me that can't swallow at all also need a peg. And it's a very simple procedure once you're in hospital. It sounds a bit horrific. They drill a hole into the side of your stomach, the side of your belly, feed a peg through. It's all done under anaesthetic. Then another hole in the front of your belly where the tube comes out. It's held inside of my body with a little balloon filled with water. This bit where they initially drill gets stitched up and it eventually heals up. So there's a bit sticking out. I'm not going to strip or anything, but there's a little bit sticking out of the front of my belly, which is the peg. It's got a special connection on it. So not only do I put my feed through there, I have to have lots of medication as well at the moment.
And this is self-administered now.
Yeah. They don't discharge you from hospital until you're being fully trained. There's a specialist company that deal on behalf of the NHS. They're called Abbott. American company. They're out of this world. They're absolute. The private sector are unbelievable.
Yeah.
So they come to the hospital, train me all up on how to do it, because it's not a question of just plugging something in. It's got to be fed through a pump.
Yeah.
And the pump has to have different settings on it, and all sorts of things like that. So I have to be trained on that. I had to be trained how to administer my own medication via syringe through the peg again. So it's all very, very organised.
Is there any indicators of how long you'll be on that peg, or
No.
does it depend on every individual?
Yeah. Excuse me. It depends on the individual. My peg will come out when they're satisfied. I can eat and drink. Basically that's the bottom line. Once I can start eating and drinking like any normal person, in inverted commas, there's no need for me to have a peg.
It does beg the question, doesn't it? Because anybody that's following you on Twitter, I know we're in a WhatsApp group, and you're spending your time doing some marvellous cooking.
Yeah.
But eating, it passes a lot of sensory nerves, doesn't it? Which makes it very pleasurable, or sometimes not very pleasurable. By bypassing that process, aren't you permanently hungry?
No, I'm not. In the beginning, I was. It seemed like I was starving all the time.
And there must be certain foods that you'd be craving, like your McDonald's breakfast.
Well, no, actually, I wasn't
Right.
craving any of that stuff. What I was craving was having a cold drink.
Yeah.
A ice cold glass of water would be heaven. I would walk. I'd walk 1,000 miles barefoot, naked. If someone said to me, "If you do that 1,000 miles, mate, your swallow's going to come back, and we'll give you a glass of cold water."
Isn't it funny that we revert to the simple things in life?
Yeah. McDonald's, KFC, doner kebabs, all of that junk was a million miles away from my head. I had a lot of time, Sean, to think. I was in hospital for 5 weeks. I had a lot of time to think. My next door neighbour, but one, in the ward, they eventually put me on my own private room because they knew that all this food was just distressing me too much. But before that, the guy my next door neighbour, one, he will be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life.
Right.
He'll never ever walk again. And by that time, after about a week, I started to get some mobility back, and I was able to kind of hobble to the loo with my sticks. And I said to him, "Look, anytime you want to use a loo, mate, just put your hand up. If no one's available, I'll come and try and help you." So, he's a really nice old boy. And I don't know where he is now. Please God he's still alive, but I just don't know. Every time he needs to go for a wee or whatever, he'd sort of, "Hey, Rosh." So I'd hobble. It was like the blind leading the blind. And 9 times out of 10, he'd never make it. He'd wee all over me, or he'd wee all over. Now he is going to be like that for the rest of his life. And that's going to be easily me. So I count my blessings every single day. I had a lot of time to think during this 5 weeks what went wrong. Now I know exactly what went wrong. As I was describing to you how I lived my life, I was also a raging diabetic. I'm no longer diabetic now, but that's one of the good things that's come out of this. So, I count my blessings. I've been given a second opportunity. I could have easily. 1 in 3 people die from stroke when they suffer a stroke. 1 in 3 of those. There's 100,000 people get a stroke in this country every year. 1 in 3 of those die.
So what is the long-term diagnosis for you, and will you be able to drive a cab again?
Yes, I definitely will be able. I definitely will be able to drive a cab again. I have to jump through a few hurdles, which Angela from the USUG is helping me.
Brilliant.
She's been so superb, such a rock, Angela. I will be able to drive a cab again. When the rules are, when you have a stroke, it's in the same category as having a heart attack and serious stuff like that. You're not allowed to. They say you're not allowed to drive for a year, DVLA. But that's basically to catch everyone that's had a stroke, and then you're individually assessed on your own merits. Where TfL come into all of this, and I've got to say, and that's not going to be popular, but they have been quite good with me on this occasion. But
in circumstances like this, they tend to be quite good. They tend to handle the situation quite well.
Yeah, they're very organised, and I'm not going to get into everything else about TfL, but as far as me and my stroke is concerned, they've been very sympathetic, and they are waiting for DVLA to assess me. I'll probably have to do a driving assessment. I'll definitely have to do a medical assessment. Once that is satisfactory, and once DVLA say give me my license back, I can then go to Palestra and say, look, they said, and they'll say, okay, right, that's going to go. That's very favourable for you, and the chances are I'll be back at work this year at some stage.
Yeah. Now, because this is audio, I know you're making a recording for your own use, and so people will be able to see how much weight you have lost. How much weight have you lost? And you'll soon be wanting to show off that 32-inch waist, won't you?
30.
30. Yeah. I mean, that's incredible, really, because it's not that long ago when we did the cab class episode, and as you were saying, you was about 19 stone. That's a huge amount of weight to lose. Is there concerns about your weight loss?
There is big concerns about the weight loss. I've lost 7 stone. 7 stone since we last had an interview.
Yeah. In what space of time have you lost 7 stone?
Since August, so less than 6 months.
Yeah.
It's not a healthy amount of weight to lose in such a short amount of time. Initially, when I started losing the weight, the reason why I'm losing weight, to go back to that, is because of the peg. I'm not eating, I'm not shoveling half a ton of crap down my gob every day. The peg is basically, I'm fed with what a human needs to exist, to stay alive. All the nutrients, all the vitamins, all the good stuff is in 1 litre liquidized bottle, which I have to feed every day. However, what's happened with me in my case and my weight loss, in the beginning it was very nice. I was able to fit into nice clothes all of a sudden, but it's got past that point where it's become a concern now to the carers that are looking after me, the therapists. They said, it's great that you've lost weight, you look good, you sound good and all the rest of it, but you're not, inside is not working properly. So what had happened, I wasn't absorbing all this good stuff. It was basically coming out the other end. So what they've done is, I'm down 12 stone, I was 19 stone. What they've done is up my calories. I have to take these little supplements which are calorie heavy, until my weight stabilizes, and it has. Over the last few weeks it has stabilized. So they said to me, look, we don't mind you being 12 stone, that's fantastic, but we don't want you going any lower than that. You've got a healthy BMI now for your height and everything. I was well into the red before, now I'm okay, I'm in the healthy zone. We need to stabilize it. We need to find out why you're not absorbing these nutrients. So that's another issue. These are all little complications that have come about because of the pig feed. Yeah. And but you know, I'm happy with the weight loss myself personally. I would have done it a different way if I had a choice.
But is there a side of it? If you put the side effects of the stroke to one side, if you can differentiate, that might not be possible. But in some ways, do you feel healthier?
I do, yes. If I look, yeah, of course I do. I do feel healthier because I'm able to walk without getting out of breath. I know I'm wobbling actually with a stick and everything, but you know, there's distinct differences between being morbidly obese and the correct weight. I mean, you're a slim guy, Sean. You've always, for all these years I've known you, you've always been fit and healthy as far as I'm concerned. And you know, I've always thought, blimey, this guy is half the size of what I am. And we've talked about weight in the past, but I've never really experienced what it was. What it was like. Yeah. And yeah, I do feel healthier. I don't particularly feel great inside, but in terms of my physical appearance, I'm much more confident with stuff. I'm enjoying. My mum buys me all these new clothes. I can't afford any clothes. And all my clothes, I went from 44-inch jeans. By the way, guys, if anyone wants any 44-inch jeans, I've got loads of them.
There's quite a few cabbies that might take you up on that.
Well, yeah, we need to talk about this very seriously. 44-inch waist to a 30-inch waist in the space of nearly 6 months. I've lost 14 inches off the waist. I've lost 7 stones, and yes, I can scream from the rooftops, yeah, I've lost 7 stones. But actually, it's not like that.
Yeah.
I had a stroke, and the reason why I've lost all that weight is I had to go through something really terrible. I mean, I could have easily died. I live every day now.
Yeah.
But I try and make use of every single day, because it could have easily been a day that would not have been.
Well, that leads me on to the question, because COVID impacted a lot of people in negative ways, and I know for me, those 2 years I became very lazy.
Yeah.
And it was a matter of being able to fill up my time. What have you been doing with all this time on your hands?
Right, okay, you mentioned the cooking earlier on. That's what I've been doing. I love cooking. You also mentioned about the pleasure about eating.
Yeah.
Now, in the beginning, when I left, when I got discharged, the last thing I wanted to do was to smell food or go anywhere near food, because it was really distressing for me, and I felt very anxious that I couldn't eat anything still. As the weeks went on, I thought, well, I'm not going to be sitting around watching Netflix all day. You know, they make it so easy for us, don't they?
Easy,
yes.
Yes.
Watch Netflix and order stuff off Amazon. Just, you never have to leave the sofa ever.
That's right.
And I thought to myself, no, hang on a second, Rosh. Start doing something. Go out for walks. Do something that you're going to enjoy. So I started walking every day, and I still do walking every day. But I thought, why don't I start cooking? The landlord lives in the same property where I live. I love cooking. I've always been a really good cook. Pre-stroke, I've been a good cook. Everyone in my family is a good cook. I grew up with some really fantastic flavours around the world. So I said to the landlord, what do you want to eat tonight? And he said, I don't know, just knock something up. So I cooked a curry. And he said, that's the best curry I've ever had in my whole life. What are you doing tomorrow? So what do you want?
Another curry.
Well, he said, let's go to Morrison's and let's go do a bit of food shopping. So I started picking all this stuff. I thought, well, let me start making bread and cakes and things, you know. So we had this trolley of flour and everything, you know. I started cooking for him, his wife. One of the other tenants in the same building got involved very quickly once he started smelling the lovely aromas in the kitchen. So it just went on from that. And then I started taking photos of it, and you know what I'm like with Twitter, I just put stuff in.
Well, I do say that if you want to see Rosh's cooking, and maybe he'll cook for you, then go on Twitter and you'll see this wonderful plethora of food that you make. But doesn't it drive you mad that you can't sample your own food? I know some people say, oh, I'm put off my food when I cook. It's nice if somebody cooks for me, but if I've got to cook it myself, I'm not so much into it. What about you? And doesn't it drive you mad? Or the fact that you've cooked it, you're not so bothered about it?
I actually get a lot of pleasure out of seeing someone else enjoying what I've cooked. Right. I went to the Green Hut the other day in Russell Square and saw Kate and Jude and the guys. Bought some cakes down there, some truffles, and it was enjoyment for me to see someone say, Rosh, I really like that Victoria sponge cake you made. It's really enjoyable. I do something a little bit naughty, which a speech therapist, please don't, I hope you're not watching this. Sorry, Georgina. Because we're still trying to get my swallow going.
Right.
So there's lots of therapy going on, but the therapy involves small teaspoons.
Just quickly on that, because that didn't seem like at the time that was automatically offered to you. It seemed like you had to search around for a speech therapist.
No. If I gave that impression in the beginning, no, that was not the case.
Right.
I had, inside the hospital itself, I had speech therapists, psychotherapists, occupational therapists, and a couple of other. That then, when I got discharged, that whole care got transferred to an outside team. So I've had a speech therapist from day one, speech and language therapist from day one. But when I said I do something naughty, if I'm cooking something, cooking a nice curry or whatever it is, I actually, because my taste buds are still there, I just can't swallow.
Right.
And I'm not allowed to do this against, apologies, Georgina. I do put I put a spoonful of what I cook into my mouth, sit down, have a little munch. It takes me about 5 minutes just to munch one until it's sort of liquid, and then I have to spit it out. So I have a little jug and I just discreetly spit it out.
Yeah.
So I do get a taste of what I've cooked.
Georgina, you've got to give him a really hard time next time you see him.
Sorry, Georgina, I'm really, really sorry. I know you told me don't do anything like this, because I did get into trouble once. Where I had a spoonful of rice. Rice is the last thing I should be having, because one bit of rice goes down my airways and doesn't come up again. You're talking about another potential big problem, pneumonia. If anything gets on to my lungs, the same with anyone.
Yes.
You know, when it goes down the wrong hole, we cough it up. If it happens to me, I'm no different than anyone else. It will just land on my lungs.
Yes, so rice is complete no.
No, rice. But idiot here did have a little spoonful of rice, and one bit did go down. Luckily for me, I was able to cough it up. And I told Georgina about it. I thought I'd better tell her. And she gave me a slap on the wrist and said, don't do that ever again, Rosh, until you can actually swallow it properly.
So you've got short-term plans to get back to full health. Mm-hmm. What are your long-term plans here?
Long-term plans is to stay a healthy weight, live a healthy life, live every day as if it is your last, and you've been given a second chance, Rosh. Take it. Don't screw it up, mate. Because up until the 2nd of August, I was on course for being 6 foot under before I was supposed to be. And you know, with us cabbies, it seems to be quite a common thing. You know.
So if you had one message you put out there to cabbies, directly to cabbies, what would it be?
You've been told this a million times, like I was. Start living a healthier lifestyle. It's very easy for us to do if we really put our head together. All these McDonald's and KFC, forget it. Doner kebabs, forget it. Everything in moderation. Don't get me wrong. You can have the odd pizza. I'm not going to start preaching to anyone, because I'm in no position to preach to anyone. But what I can say was what happened to me, and what is going to happen to me in the future. I'll be staying well away from a double sausage and egg McMuffin meal with 3 hash browns. I'll be staying away from all of that rubbish. I don't need it. I know what it tastes like. I know I don't need it. I don't need to buy a massive Galaxy chocolate bar for a family of 6 and shovel it all down my gob. I don't need to do any of that. There's lots of tasty, and what about the cooking on my YouTube channel in the future will be healthy cooking ideas and me cooking. You know, I've got a couple of ideas. Actually, Myrna has put a couple of ideas in my head.
It's funny you bring up Myrna, because Myrna said to me on the way here, she said, Rosh has offered to cook her a vegan meal. Now, when you came round to sample Myrna's vegan food, which is a prerequisite of coming on cab class, wasn't it? You was quite against vegan food, wasn't you?
I didn't take it seriously.
Right, okay.
I didn't take it. I'm not a vegan now, by the way. I'm not vegetarian. I'm still Rosh, who loves meat. I don't think I ever could be a strict vegetarian or strict vegan. But I never took it seriously. But when Myrna cooked that meal for us, it was.
I can't remember what we ate that day.
It was. Oh, now you put me on the spot. It was a duck.
Oh yes, well, we had the vegan duck.
We had the duck. She had something else.
The vegan duck. Yeah, that's what it is.
That's what it was. And but we had a normal duck. So I was sort of testing and comparing. I tasted. Myrna said, "Taste this," and I've got to say I was impressed.
Yeah, there's not much difference between the two.
The reason why I said to Myrna the other day, I'll cook you a vegan meal, because it's a challenge for me.
Yes.
I've never done it for a vegan meal, specifically a vegan
meal. Well, you'd
meal.
have to cook a lot, because for a little one, she don't often.
She shoves it down. Well, on the subject of food, I've got a little, you can see it on the video, but you won't be able to necessarily hear it, or see it on the audio. I've got a little plastic jar with some pink, what looks like sand, but it's actually salt. Oh, right. One of the big, and I want you to give this to Myrna if you don't mind, Sean. One of the big contributors to stroke is salt, table salt.
Yeah.
Table salt is horrific.
Oh, I'm guilty of a lot of salt.
Same here. Same here. And that's another thing about giving a message to cabbies. Cut down on your salt. Use natural salt. This is Himalayan salt. It's a lovely pink colour. And you can buy this. It's widely available. I go to my local Asian store to get this. The main supermarkets might even sell this stuff. I don't know. It's called Himalayan salt. It's a very mild salt, but is a million times better than table salt. And I put a little bit in a container for Myrna and for you.
That's good advice.
It's mild salt. Just use it any way on your eggs in the morning. Whatever you use salt on, use this instead of table salt. Or use rock salt. Use kosher salt. It's very, very good. Us humans don't like changing too much, do we?
No.
But if we can better...
You can say that again.
Yeah, if we can make it better, if we can change little things, but still experience the same, we're open to those kind of ideas. And this is just one little idea. Himalayan salt cabbies, go and buy yourself a big thing of it. It's not expensive. I bought a big container of it for about £5. It's pink in colour, but it's natural. It's not refined. It's not processed. It's not none of this crap that goes into the table salt that we have. But give that to Myrna.
Brilliant.
You can use that.
Thank you.
Just there's nothing special you have to do.
That's very
with
nice.
it. Just use it as normal.
Thank you. Rosh, I've got to say thank you for coming on the show and sharing your experience. More so, thank you for your courage, your bravery and your willingness to share your experience, in the hope that there's cab drivers out there that will listen and they won't have to endure what you've been going through. So thank you very much
you're more
for all
welcome.
of that.
It's the honour's mine. Just cabbies, don't go through. You don't want to have a stroke, cabbies. You really don't. If you are overweight, if you're living in if anything that I've said strikes a chord with you, think about it. You don't have to blast it from the rooftops. Just make simple little changes.
Well, just briefly, like you said, it was too late for you. There might be cabbies out there that are getting to that point, and I know we covered it a bit earlier, but what are the signs they should look out for if they're experiencing something that's not right, which might lead to a stroke? What should they look out for?
Well, if you feel dizzy, if you've never felt dizzy before and it's a new thing, just be aware that something might be happening. On the day of the stroke, we see all the adverts, don't we, where the face is sort of drooping to one side. If that happens, that's the distinct sign of a stroke. If you're having trouble holding your hand up and keep falling down, that's a sign of a stroke. If your speech is becoming very slurry and blurry, that's a sign of a stroke. But for whatever these signs are, if you experience anything like this, whether you've got a customer in the cab or not, pull over, call 999. Don't muck about with this stuff. Don't muck about with 111 or ringing your missus or ringing your girlfriend or ringing whoever. Don't muck about. Call 999 immediately, because if you get to the A&E and it's a few minutes more than it should be, you could ultimately die. You could ultimately be paralysed for the rest of your life. You could ultimately not be able to, like my mate in the corner in the hospital, you won't be able to go to the loo by yourself. You'll be cared for 24 hours a day. Call 999 immediately. Get to the hospital. That's what they're there for. None of this, they're going to be busy because of COVID. Stuff COVID. You're at a critical stage of a possible stroke. Get to hospital and get them to look after you.
Well, thank you for that, Rosh. That's brilliant advice. I look forward to seeing you with this being an improving picture.
Definitely. Just one thing before you go, Sean. I just want to wish the Cabbies Do Killy guys good luck. They're climbing next week,
I think.
Yeah, Mount Meru and Mount Kilimanjaro. They'll have a big announcement to make when they come down.
They must have been drunk when they came to the decision to climb two mountains.
idea was it even to do anything?
It was
about
alcohol's idea. That's what it must have been.
But they're going to make it Darren, John, Stuart, the boys, all of the boys
I hope
and
so,
girls.
and it is being, and they're doing it for the Taxi Drivers Charity
Yes,
for Children as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's
if you haven't
absolute-
donated, then do
Just
so,
throw a
because it's
couple
for a
of
very good
They're
cause.
going to have a big announcement when they come back down, which is regarding 2023. I'm being sworn to secrecy. Let's just leave it at that, because I'm going to probably say too much.
Yeah.
Part of my recovery is going to involve doing something quite amazing
Brilliant.
in the future. We'll leave it at that. All will be revealed in the next month or two. So yeah, thank you, Sean.
You're all masochists, and it deserves funding. So get on it.
We need to get this cab trade. We need a fit and healthy cab trade going forward. Don't have a stroke. Don't have a heart attack. Diabetes is another killer. Just before we go, Sean,
Yeah,
again.
no, go ahead. It's all good.
I was raging diabetic.
A raging
diabetic pre-stroke, type 2, totally out of control. You know, what diabetic goes into a petrol station, buys a Bounty, a packet of Maltesers, 2 Turkish Delights and a Ripple. what diabetic does that? You're looking at him there. So I was raging diabetic, another big contributing factor to stroke. I'm now, March, I'll be off all of my diabetic medication. The doctor said there's no reason for you.
Well, that's a result.
That's the top result. Again, I would do it a different way if I had a choice. I wouldn't go do it via the stroke route. So there is light at the end of the tunnel for me, but there may not be for someone's listening to this.
No, that's right.
So try and avoid it now while you can.
No, very good advice. Thank you, Rosh. And like I said, I look forward to following your progress and,
thank you.
and speaking to you again very soon.
Cheers, Sean. Nice
Thank
one,
you,
mate.
Rosh.
Thanks.
Great.
Cheers,
Take
Sean.
care.
Thought you might say that.
London Taxi Radio, the cabby's choice.